Guys, what's up? Welcome back to Stormworks, and we are once again working on our Awacs. So I'm just in here. I did some off camera work. So geez, I can't talk right now. So I just wanted to show you guys this. So I did a bunch of Lewis screens that you could see. Now the 3 radars, those are not going to be the same screen. I just kind of put them there so there's no blank screens. But yeah, you can see we've got a heads-up display, we've got our altitude hold, we've got a couple other screens, and most of the buttons are in the cockpit. So we're going to keep working on this today. I'm going to shift my focus a little bit away from the plane controls over to the co-pilot seat. And we're going to start working on the aerial refueling controls. So we've got to add a bunch of stuff. You can see there's a monitor over there for him. And over there is going to be kind of where all the controls for the booms and the drogues and all that good stuff are. But I just wanted to kind of show the plane off a little bit. We've got it in a much better state than last time. And, I'll kind of go over what some of the instruments mean in a later part of the episode. But yeah, that's pretty much what we got in store for today. So if you guys like this series, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. We've got a little bit more to go. This plane's coming along pretty quick, pretty nicely. And a couple more episodes, we should have this thing done and hopefully on the workshop for you guys. So real quick, just a couple things. We'll go over some of the stuff in the cockpit that I did off camera. This screen's going to change quite a bit, but you guys can see this is kind of the idea for the refueling drogues. Now there's going to be one on each wing and then one for the boom too. So the seat kind of rotates. And I'm going to get back in the cockpit or in the pilot seat. So I did a little bit of work on this radar screen. Now this radar screen is not mine, and I just dropped a pod. You guys can see that is a radar or a sonar pod. There's going to be 2 of them that you can drop off of the wing. And so technically you can kind of hunt for submarines in this thing. So this screen is made by Zizo. It's not made by me, but I've heavily modified it. It's a fantastic screen. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. He's in our Discord. Shout out you, Zizo. You're the man. But you guys can see right there. So it's pinging. All of the blue points are a sonar target. All of the green points are a radar target. And the ring will kind of go around where the sonar is. Now, I slowed down the footage quite a bit, so I'm sorry about the frame rate, but this gives me a little bit of time to explain to you guys. So down here, that number is 11 kilometers to our autopilot target, so the autopilot is on. We got that hooked up. And then the number panel right above is our altitude hold. So we're flying at 500 feet, and that is pretty much the rest of the work that I did on the inside of the cockpit. So we're back in the workbench, and the first thing that I want to do is add these little indicators so whoever is hooked up to our refueling drogues or probe will know that we are pumping fuel. And then we will move back into the cockpit, and we're going to get a bunch of buttons and all that kind of stuff set up. So I'm going to let the time lapse roll. We're going to get some building done, and I'll come back and talk to you guys in a couple minutes. All right, well, we got that all tested up, and this is only for the right wing, so basically I'm just going to copy and paste this same exact setup to the other wing. Sorry, the right wing, we already did the left wing. And then we will have to create one in the center for the boom. Now, the boom isn't going to be steerable. I know in a lot of these planes in real life, the boom has some sort of controls to it, so you can kind of move it up and down and left and kind of get it out of the way if you really need to. That's really the main reason. It's not really to line it up with the plane. It's more of a safety thing that the boom can pull away from the other plane. But that is going to be pretty much the setup for our refueling. And you guys can see that I edited this seat a little bit, so it does spawn facing backwards, just like the pilot seat. But as soon as you get into it, it has two different positions, so it switches between facing forward and facing that side screen where you can do the refueling. So later on, we'll add some radios and that kind of thing. I'm also going to add a physics sensor that you can broadcast info to. So, you know, if you want to have a plane kind of easily be able to rendezvous with this thing and start refueling, you can do that. Now, a little shaky on the takeoff there, I know. Still working on the PIDs. The PIDs are not going to be really touched until I'm done with this thing. I usually try to set them up, and then after I get the plane mostly done, I'll go back and redo them, just because the weights kind of change and whatnot, and that way you don't have to tune them a bunch of times. I find PIDs very annoying, so I'm sure a lot of you do too. But that is pretty much what we got in store. So we got to basically just duplicate this system to the other side, and I'm just editing the camera zoom there. So you guys will notice that as you kind of push the drogue out, the zoom gets tighter and tighter, so you can see a little bit further. Not really super necessary. I just thought it was kind of a nice little feature to have with it. And then I am just going to hook up a little blinker to our indicator here. And I didn't like that it was a light. It can look a little bit better. It doesn't need to be a light. So we're going to play around and make a nice little indicator for this. So we're going to have to, again, duplicate all of this work onto the other wing. They're separate systems, but it shouldn't be too bad. I am just trying to make this look a little bit nicer. And then we're going to actually move on after we do that to kind of detailing the plane up a little bit. So we're going to do a little bit of paint work. I want to add formation lights. If you didn't know what those are or don't know what those are, basically they are like the green nighttime marker lights that combat planes use. And I think they're super cool. Completely unnecessary, but it's cool to kind of fly around with all of your nav lights off and just have your formation lights on, and I think it looks great. So we're going to do a bunch of that later on. So we're going to have a lot of fun with paint blocks in this episode. Those indicators aren't the only ones we're going to be doing. But right here, I am just going to duplicate our little control system over to the other side. And then what I'm also not going to do in this video is I'm going to work on not necessarily like an MFD. It's going to work kind of like an MFD. So there's going to be 3 different cameras that you can switch to on that camera screen or on that monitor. And they're just going to have 3 little buttons on the bottom. So you can switch between the right wing, the left wing, and the center on the boom. So you guys can have a little bit better visibility when you're trying to guide planes in for docking to refuel. And that is pretty much all we are going to do with this portion of the episode. So we're going to move over now to doing some more little fun paint work, detail work, whatever you want to call it. And hopefully we'll start getting this thing looking a little bit more like a finished plane on the outside as well. So we have once again spawned this in. We're real time. So I'm just going to kind of go over how you guys can use the airplane so far. I got a nice little loading screen, as you guys can see, and that'll get modified. I still have to make these screens into MFDs, which is a multi-function display for those of you who don't know. And you can see that red indicator right on the dashboard. That is telling us what flight mode we're in. So nice little kind of instrument. And then this green paint block in front of us, that is for the gyro. So going on the theme of trying to keep the cockpit simple, I have a lot more indicators than buttons. And it should be relatively easy for you guys to control. So we got the autopilot hooked up. We've got the altitude hooked up. You guys can see the altitude hold is working. It's a little rocky, and the landing gear are also automatic now. So there is no controls for that. Just another way to kind of simplify the cockpit a little bit. It will deploy if you are within, I believe, 50 meters of the ground. So as soon as the distance sensor picks it up, it gives you enough time to get them deployed. But I went ahead and I did basically the same control thing for our central boom off camera, and I also went ahead and got that screen I was talking about done too. So you guys can see it shows our heading, it shows our diesel percentages, our jet percentages, and it shows what wing we are on. So kind of bright green. I will say the colors on the screen change a little bit, but the rest of the screen really doesn't. So I make the bright green buttons on the bottom look a little bit better. I didn't really like how they were just kind of really bright green, just blocks, for lack of a better term. So we will go ahead and change that, but you guys can see everything's transparent. You should be able to see it quite easily, and all of the buttons are working. So it should be ready to go with refueling missions now. The only other fueling stuff that we got to play with is I'm going to add a couple more ports towards the back just for when you're landed, in case you want to refuel another plane on the ground or another, say tank or truck or whatnot with diesel on the ground. We'll add that, but that'll be later on. And obviously, I'm also not going to do the MFDs on camera. You guys will see that probably in the next episode. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think it's looking quite nice. It's pretty roomy in here, as you guys can see. Not too complicated. I like how all the colors are matching, and it looks nice and simple. So you guys really shouldn't need to read a 10-page manual to learn how to fly this thing, which is usually the goal with a lot of my creations. Is I try to make them look really complex and then be pretty simple and straightforward to use. And yeah, so we're gonna we'll have to come back and detail this part of the bay quite a bit, but I'm quite excited for some of the stuff we have in store for that. I have a fun little cargo project for you guys that I think you guys will like. I'm gonna make both a cluster bomb and I make an airdroppable tank, which is not manned, so I guess technically it's a drone, but very cool, and it's self-contained, so technically you don't even need to use it in this creation. You can use it with whatever creation. As long as the cargo container has a source of electric, then it should work. So I'll try to post both of them separate on the workshop, but you guys will see that a little bit down the road. I'm going to try to get this plane mostly finished up before I do the videos on that. I did record it, so you guys will see some videos, probably only a video or two of that, but yeah, so that's kind of what I went ahead and did off camera. We're going to move on to doing a lot of the paint blocks. Now, I don't want to bore you guys just because we've been in the microcontrollers quite a lot in this episode. So we're going to move on and start doing some fun decoration kind of stuff. And you guys know me, I love my paint blocks. So we're going to do a little bit of paint block work. Now, this thing's not going to get any special livery or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of do the normal thing I generally do, which is just like a lot of lines and geometric shapes and that kind of thing. So trying to make it look a little futuristic, like most of my builds. Not unrealistically futuristic, but futuristic, which is kind of funny to say because this plane is by no means realistic. But real quick, let me grab a shade that I didn't have saved off of my attack helicopter, and that way we can make sure we're using the same color for our nighttime markers, or our formation lights is generally what they are called. So I'm going to make sure that they're painted, and then those the switches in the cockpit that were kind of on the overhead panel, those are hooked up to our lights. Now we have 4 switches in there. One is going to be for landing lights, one is going to be for navigation lights, one is for our formation lights, and then another one is an instrument light for the cockpit itself. So not too complicated. Once again, a couple buttons, nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy, and we're just kind of gonna have some fun with these paint blocks and start adding some lights all over. And later on we'll turn it on at night and kind of check it out at night. But I really like this part of it. I think this really kind of helps the plane start to look more like a completed plane. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up all the building we're going to do in this episode. So, as usual, if you guys stayed to the end, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That helps our channel out quite a bit. And we're just going to go flying. So, we're going to check out some of these lights that I added. And you guys can see they're right here, all 4 of them. So, I'm just going to flick them all on for now. We'll turn them off later. And you guys will be able to kind of see this thing with its lights on at night in action. So kind of an annoying thing, and I'll make it a little bit faster. The startup for the airplane is a little slow. It's not a lot of switches, but the startup for the engines is a little slow. So I'll work on that so you guys don't have to wait as long. But yeah, we'll just kind of set our altitude, and you guys can see I got our landing lights. I think our landing lights look fantastic. They're aimed nice and well. And our steering is still working good. And I go back and I change the interior cockpit light to a red light at night, and you can change, you guys will see later on, but it's going to have a switch to RGB lights, so you can either do bright white or you can do kind of red for nighttime operation. And looks like we got in the air fine. Let me turn our landing lights off, and we are flying. So this cockpit, I think, is turning out really nice, and you guys can see all of the green formation lights we added. It looks super cool at night. And I'm going to actually go back and add a few more off camera. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all we have for today's episode. So if you like this build or you like this episode, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. That's all I got for you guys in this one. I'll see you in the next episode. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.